Hi, are distractions causing you to be derailed from your projects? Are you losing productivity because the distractions are just too much? Hi, I'm Cheryl Texera, and I am a certified project manager, and I am also certified in Scrum, and I today want to talk to you about how distractions can really derail you and what you can do about it. Okay, so let's get started. Um, so distractions are like the worst. And in today's world, we have distractions constantly, right? We have, our phones are a huge source of distractions. We have a computer at our fingertips, and it actually gives us notifications. So it's like having multiple email inboxes all at once on top of everything else that's going on. So trying to combat those distractors can really make you, I don't know, just, super frustrated, get down on yourself, and, think it's all your fault, but it really isn't your fault. It's not your fault. Our social media and our internet world, our age of information is designed to interrupt and disrupt you, right? And so let's talk about some things and some reasons why we actually get distracted. It's not just about the social media, it's about our brain and how our brain works. And so I was doing a bunch of research today, actually the last week, on distractions and how we can fight them. And a lot of it is simply we are just overexposed, right? We're so overexposed that we just have a difficult time, sorting through everything and getting everything into our mental file cabinets like we need to. And so I was reading these articles, and if you want to know the articles, one was from Psychology Today, but I have like 4 or 5 articles I was reading. I can get you those links if you're interested in knowing about those. Just post in the comments whether or not you want to know what those resources are, and I will get those to you. But it was interesting because I was looking into ADD and ADHD, because that is one of the complaints that I hear about a lot of people in my Facebook group, is they feel like they're ADD or ADHD. Maybe they've been diagnosed, maybe not. But I had a conversation with a psychologist quite a few years ago. Well, it's a long story. Had to do with my son, and he was struggling in school. He was pretty young. And so I took him to a psychologist because they were trying to diagnose him with ADD. And I just wasn't quite sure that that was really true. And so I wanted to really look into it. So I dove in and I took him to a psychologist. And what he told me was that when you have ADD or ADHD, your frontal lobe actually doesn't fire properly. And when your frontal lobe, that's your whole engine. That's the engine that sorts through everything, that does the critical thinking, the hard thinking, and that kind of stuff. And when that isn't firing, then you have a difficult time focusing, and you'd have a difficult time being critical, doing critical thinking and that sort of thing. And so anyway, he was saying that if you have a frontal lobe injury, that can actually mimic ADHD and ADD type symptoms, because the damage to your frontal lobe causes your frontal lobe to not fire correctly. And, over the years, your brain may heal after a frontal lobe injury, but it may take a long, long, long time. And in my son's case, he actually, he was like 3.5, and he was jumping on my bed, and he fell face planted right on the footboard of my, the footboard of my bed, and gave himself 2 black eyes and just hit himself right there. It was really bad. And after that, he went from this like little mellow dude to this like hyperactive person, right? And it lasted for years. And he's an adult now, and he does really good. He's a great guy, and it all turned out okay. And maybe his frontal lobe healed, but I always wondered about that, and if it was something that You know, a lot of us have, you know, how many times have you bonked your head, you know, in your lifetime and didn't realize that maybe you did more damage than you thought? And so I was looking really at, okay, how do we stimulate our frontal lobe, make it fire so that we can stay focused on what we do, you know, what we need to do, and be more productive. And so I started looking at one of the things from Psychology Today that they talked about. The lady's name is Sandra Bond Chapman. If you want to go look up that article, it's called "Go Full Frontal to Be Smart: How Harnessing the Power of Your Frontal Lobes Maximizes Your Brain's Potential." But anyway, so one of the things that she talked about was to try to limit overexposure. And we all know that, you know, as online entrepreneurs, we always have tons of browsers open, right? We have tons of browser tabs open. We're toggling back and forth to all these things. But sometimes we leave more of those browser tabs open when we don't need to. And so I assert to you that if you start using a Kanban board, remember what a Kanban board is. It's this little tool that we have in Scrum, and it's like a Trello board or something like that. You could use a whiteboard, you can use a piece of paper, it doesn't matter, but it has 3 columns. It has your to-do column, a doing column, and a done column. And those 3 columns can really help simplify things for you, right? So if you're using a Kanban board and you have a task in your to-do column and you move it over to the doing, you're going to start working on it. My suggestion is to start fresh. Only have your Trello board open if you have it, and close all your browser tabs before starting that task. Then only open the tabs that you need to complete that task. When that task is over, then go ahead and close out all of your browser tabs except for that Trello board, and then close out that particular item on your list. And the reason why, I know that can seem like, oh, I don't know, I have to close them all and then I have to open them all. But probably once you're ready to close down those browsers because you've completed a task, you're probably also ready for a little break, right? So why not just close everything down? You sort of close out that task for yourself. You leave all those distractors behind, and then you get up and walk away from your desk for a few minutes and take a break, right? Because we all need breaks. Nobody has, 2, 3, 4-hour attention spans anyway. And if you have trouble focusing and concentrating, you may even have a more difficult time focusing for long periods of time. If you're like me, I kind of have a hard time getting started. Once I get started, I can stay focused for quite a long time. And so you got to start looking at how you behave and what you need to do, and getting rid of those main distractors, your social media, your cell phone. All those things can really make a big difference. And so the other thing I want to talk to you about that's kind of my thing is the time blocks, right? Let's look at those time blocks that you have. Remember, our time blocks are green for go time, right? That is your high focus time, the time when you can really focus on your business without distractions. So in those green time blocks, put your phone away, turn it off, get it out of your room, wherever you're working, get it away from you, because sometimes it's not just a mental habit that you're just jumping on your phone. It's a physical habit. You're constantly picking up your phone, right? Constantly picking it up and looking at it, checking things. It's just become a habit that you have that you don't even think about. Before you even think about it, it's already in your hand and you're doing this, right? So my suggestion is shut it off or get it out of the room where you're working so that it doesn't distract you. Also, if you don't have a need for social media for the tasks that you're doing, shut those things down and don't turn on the notifications on your desktop. Only use the notifications on your actual social media. That will help those disruptors from coming into your world and derailing your progress. Okay, so the other thing is you can set aside time to actually check your email and your social media. You know, just because somebody text messages you or instant messages you or emails you does not mean you have to drop everything and answer them right away. That is the beauty of social media and of Messenger and all those things. We don't have to be on a phone call, right? We can talk to somebody all day long for days on end. It doesn't really matter, right? We can just talk when we are available. So set off some time for you to, check your email and check those things. Just be a little bit more strategic and pointed about it, and then get it done, and then get back to your other tasks. Okay. All right. And so another interesting thing that the doctor told me with my son was that physical exercise or anything that helps get your adrenaline kind of pumping a little bit can help stimulate the frontal lobe. And that stimulation is going to help get that thing firing, right? So that you can start focusing. So if you're having trouble focusing on one thing, if you're finding yourself getting distracted by every little thing, noticing every little thing, and not being able to filter that out, it might be time to get a little exercise. And it doesn't have to be super formal or anything like that. Just, go and, turn on YouTube and dance around your living room or something for, 15 minutes or something. Just get your blood pumping, get that frontal lobe moving. Take your dog out for a walk, get some stimulation outside, and just anything to get that adrenaline pumping a little bit. You could even just do jump squats or, any type of thing that's going to just move your body and get your blood flowing, get that frontal lobe really stimulated. So then when you sit down, you're going to be much, much more focused. So exercise is key. If you don't do it for your body, do it for your brain. As we get older, the frontal lobe actually does not fire as well, right? So with every decade of age, we're gonna need more and more of that stimulation on our frontal lobe to get it to actually work. And you probably know as well as I do and the rest of the world that you can keep growing brain cells your whole entire life. So being able to stimulate that and stimulate your frontal lobe so that you can absorb information and you can learn and you can stay focused is going to go a long, long, long way to helping you get things done and stay productive. If you think about what's going on in your work, you might actually be stuck. And maybe that is one of the reasons why you're so easily succumbing to those distractions, right? Because you're stuck on something, maybe you have a decision that you need to make that you're not making. Maybe you aren't feeling like you're on target on something that you're trying to do. Like maybe you're missing the mark just slightly, right? And it doesn't feel right. And so it's making you struggle with making forward progress because you have some sort of decision to make, some analysis to do, or some correction in your direction. I like that, correction in your direction that you need to do, right? Maybe you have a learning curve that you're avoiding that you need to, kind of face head on and get through that learning curve. And I'm telling you, the learning curve, there's so much you can do in terms of learning curve. Once you identify the specific problem that you're having with that learning curve, then it's easy to go Google, go and, YouTube search or whatever for that specific thing and get that fix. One of the things that, application developers are extremely good at is Google searching, because we know as developers that if it's some sort of logic that we are trying to build, somebody else has probably already built it and written about it. And in fact, usually it's a lot of people. And so here's one of the insider tricks for developers, or for me as a developer. One of the things I do is I will go and Google search things, like a specific topic, but I'll do several Google searches on that topic, and I'll read through all of their stuff. Similar to think about if you're looking for a recipe, right? Well, sometimes you don't need to follow the recipe exact, or maybe you don't have the ingredients, right? So you start looking for that recipe all over the web, and you find like a combination of different recipes that you finally put together because you have the ingredients and it kind of worked out, right? Well, it's similar to that in the application development world, is you just start Googling all these different things and different people's approaches to solving a specific problem. And then you can kind of put together your own solution that works for you. Same thing with the learning curve for anything that you're working on. If it's a tech issue, if you have an issue with, your CRM, or, with building something that you're trying to work on, the tech issue, or your software, whatever, you can Google it and you'll be able to get information. Now, let's say you have software that's kind of brand new and there's not a lot of stuff out for the particular software. Going and looking at other types of software that's very similar could help you to kind of figure out what it is you're looking for, right? So if you're having trouble, let's say with your logo not showing up right on your website, the silly example, right? But by looking at other people's things, it might not be in your software, it might not work exactly the same, but going and looking at other people, you're going to learn things like what that logo image is called in the structure of your page. It's pretty much called the same thing for everybody, right? Like the navigation bar is a nav bar, and heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, those are HTML types of language things that all applications are going to have across all different applications. You're going to have that kind of basic structure, HTML type structure, CSS, and those languages. So you can start finding commonalities, and then that will help you identify what it is that you're actually trying to fix. So remember that sometimes it just takes a little bit of research to first identify what the problem is. And then once you identify what the problem is, you can start Googling solutions for that problem. So, give yourself a few minutes and a little bit of time to research those things and learn. And if you're having trouble and you start getting distracted, get up out of your chair and go and get some exercise, dance around your living room. I don't care what it is. Do squats, do, push-ups, or, just do something easy like dancing around your living room. One, it'll help with your mental health because, dancing is great fun and we all love to dance. It's a great way to celebrate being alive. And so there's no rule that says you can't dance around your living room all you want, right? Okay, so remember, we're going back to that Kanban board. We're going back to those time blocks, right, during this time. So make sure that you're doing your full focus work during that green time. You're managing your Kanban board. You're bringing those browser windows down, those browser tabs down for things that you are not working on. And a good way to do that is just shut everything down in between tasks and get up and walk around and get a little movement in before you start a new task. So, building a routine where you're switching and you're giving yourself a transition period. Think about, high school and college, right? You don't just go 8 hours straight without a break and learn all the subjects that you learn. You have a transition period. You transition from one subject to another, and you have a break in between. So treat yourself right and do those things as well. The other way you can start eliminating distractions, I feel like I have an eyelash or something on my face, sorry, is to start building like repeatable processes and workflows. Like, for example, if you create content like every week, let's say you create one every week, and some of you create more, some create less, whatever the thing is, or whatever you guys do. But having a repeatable process that you do can help you put on autopilot some of the things that really require less brain work, so you have more time, energy, and frontal lobe capacity to really focus in on developing that great content, right? And so having those repeatable processes, like, for me, I have a basic workflow, and I have it documented of how I generate my weekly content. I have a workflow. I figure out what my topic is. I create the image for StreamYard, and then I schedule it in StreamYard. I do a little outline, and I schedule it in Facebook. And I don't write those things off as a non-item because they do take time. And in fact, last week I had a problem with StreamYard, and I couldn't get it to actually stay connected to Facebook long enough for it to schedule the live. And so I wasn't able to schedule it, and I had to improvise. But I wasted a ton of time trying to fix that thing, getting in touch with their help, getting all those things. And so normally that activity would have been pretty brainless. I can just kind of do it. But I had a technical problem, and I'm glad that I recognized that that is a step in my process, because it helped me to not get super frustrated and mad and just kind of go with the flow and improvise and adapt and do something else. And so last week I went live just directly in Facebook. I just had to do it. And so having some of those things as repeatable processes and workflows, one, it helps you recognize every single step that's in your process so that you don't overlook something, because that thing you're overlooking could be a 2-hour thing, right? It could take you time. And we want to make sure we're recognizing everything that is taking our time. The reason why we want to recognize that so with such clarity is so that you understand what is taking up your time, and you give yourself credit for getting the things done. Because have you ever sat down at your desk and you've been sitting there all day, and you get up and you're thinking, geez, I didn't get anything done today. Then you go right into the blame game. I'm not productive. I'm not going to make it. I'm, whatever self beat up you're doing. And really, it might simply be just creating some of these little things, a KanBan board, looking at your time blocks, utilizing and leveraging the green time block for the time that you need it, getting some exercise so your brain can fire at its fullest and best performance, creating repeatable processes and workflows so that you can, not have so much brain power going into just the basic, processes that you do. Instead, you're committing it to muscle memory, right? So if you actually documented a workflow for something that you do on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or something like that, one, you have it to fall back on. So especially if it's something monthly and you're just getting started, you can remember the process and what you do, saving yourself a lot of time. But also you start committing that to muscle memory, and then it just becomes part of your routine, part of your muscle memory, and it makes it a lot easier for you to get that done. And you can get a lot of it done during yellow time, right? When you have some distractions going on, when you have people in the house making noise or doing other things, right? And then you can reserve that time when you're actually creating your content, reserve that green time for that. Okay, all right, so that's my story today. I hope that it helps you to fight those distractions. Remember that frontal lobe needs to fire, and think about your life. If you had any type of a brain injury on the front of your head in your life, it could be mimicking some of those things. And so there's a simple solution, right? Get some exercise, get your adrenaline going a little bit, get that frontal lobe firing. Use your KanBan board, your time blocks, workflows, repeatable processes, and close down all those distractors, the browser windows, get that cell phone out of the way, and make today your most productive day, all right? You know what? I'd love to hear in the comments how you're doing. Come back, shoot me a message, and let me know if some of these tips helped you have a more productive day, all right? Okay, you guys, thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon. We'll see you in the comments. Bye.